guys, everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to be taking a look at the Transformers Legacy Leader Class Blitzwing. Before we take a look at them, let's take a look at the packaging. So in the front here we have a nice shot of Blitzwing in his tank, robot, and jet mode, looking super cool. Of course, the Legacy logo and the Transformers logo on this side looking super cool. On the side of the box here we have a nice shot of the jet and tank mode, looking super cool. On the back we have lots of product shots. It is 32 steps from transforming Blitzwing from the robot to the jet, and 41 steps for transforming Blitzwing from the robot to the tank, and of course lots more product shots of all the accessories and how they're stored on all three modes. On the side here we have the typical Decepticon Legacy artwork. We have Megatron, Dragstrip, Iguanus, Skywarp, and Kickback, and that is pretty much it for the packaging. Let's now get into this review. Just an FYI, I will be transferring Blitzwing from the tank to the robot to the jet. Let's now move on to the review. So here we have Blitzwing in his tank mode. He looks really cool. Let's take a look at the details. Starting at the top with this main turret section, I think it looks really cool how much detail and like nuts and bolts are really just spread across everywhere. It's actually not very symmetrical or organized. It actually looks really cool. I do like this nice brown sand color to it. It looks really nice. Some nice purple for that Decepticon symbol, of course, the main barrel section. And if you move this whole turret section, you can actually reveal more detail with some silver and red and panel detailing and purple. That looks really nice. Of course, the very controversial section right here does really stick out like a sore thumb. It doesn't bother me that much because it is, of course, very accurate to the G1 show. My main complaint is you can actually see the robot mode head just sticking out in there, so I wish that was a little bit more covered up, but that's really my only complaint for the tank mode. Moving to the side, of course, some nice black for this main tread section there, some more brown, and you can see all these little vents and details and little boxes and everything. It actually looks really cool. And speaking of wheels, there is 4 rolling wheels that actually work, 2 on each side, and as you can see, it really cleans up quite nicely. There's only a little bit of hollowness, but it overall looks really cool. On the back, of course, there's these giant boosters from the jet mode. I actually really do like how you can see these in the tank mode. That's really cool for some stop motions and pictures. You can have them blasting into battle, and that'll look really cool. So detail wise, it looks pretty cool. Now for articulation and features, it rolls actually very well on the ground. Now for articulation, the tank can rotate at the turret all the way around. The barrel can move up and down, and that is pretty much it for articulation and features. Let's now get into the accessories and how they are stored on this figure's tank mode. So of course he does come with these really weird, wacky Energon Gauntlets that are really weird but also kind of cool. So how you want them to look is like this for the tank mode, so I'll show you how they get there. So I'm going to use on the other one. So this is typically how it will look in the robot mode. So what you're going to want to do is disconnect this, go on the inside, there is a peg, and there is a port on this, so you're just going to want to plug it in. Do not plug it in all the way. You can if you are asking for pain, because they're actually really hard to get out, so just barely press it in there, and that's exactly how you want it to look like. So I'll show you how to store those in just a sec. I want to put on all the other little accessories first, and then I'll put those on, but that's how you want that configuration to look. He also does come with 1 sword, some nice silver and purple. Overall, I really do like all the angles and sharp points. Also, there is no paint blemishes, which is really nice. So there is a peg and a port right on top of the tank. You're just going to plug that right in. Of course, there's ports pretty much all over this tank, so you could plug it anywhere. I think it looks pretty cool because it does align with the barrel. He also does come with 2 symmetrical blasters, the exact same, done in this nice purple, which overall looks pretty cool. There is a peg and a port, and you're just going to plug that right into place. There's this back port. Of course, you could use this closer one to the front, but this is typically how I will store it in the tank mode, just my personal preference. Of course, the exact same one on the other side, just plug it in like that, and there we have all the little accessories done, which I think looks pretty cool. Now we can put on the crazy giant wacky cannons. So how you're going to do this is there is a slot right here, and there is a tab in this little groove section that's just going to align in place just like this, and that will just tab in just like that. Of course, I can show it again on the other one if you missed it. But that looks crazy, but overall, kind of cool. So again, there is this whole tab and groove section. There is this slot in that section right there. And you're just going to want to align this up tab this into place, and there we have all the accessories on there. That looks crazy, but also cool, and of course you can still move this section. Just be aware, these are not the most secure tabbed in. They could pop off really at any time, but storage-wise, I think it's definitely an A+. These weapons are crazy. Honestly, I probably could do without them included in this figure, but still a nice touch. Of course, the main gimmick of Legacy is Energon weapons, so really, you know, you're going to have to deal with some weird ones. So now let's move into some tank comparison. Now for some tank comparisons, here is Legacy Blitzwing with Siege Megatron. I really thought I had to do this comparison because they're two very classic, good Decepticon figures, in my opinion, that have both really cool tank modes, in my opinion. As you can see, Megatron is a lot more spread out, not as compressed as Blitzwing. There's actually a lot of engineering going on in this figure, and that's really what you're paying for. If you are kind of wondering, should you buy Blitzwing, keep in mind that he comes with 5 accessories, and also the engineering is just crazy. There's so many really cool tidbits that you would never really expect to see in a $50 figure. So, two really cool tanks. Let's now move on to another comparison with his former version. So here he is with Titan Return Blitzwing. Unfortunately, my Blitzwing, his barrel and his tank mode actually snapped off, so kind of incomplete and broken, so I'm actually very glad they made a modern day Legacy version to kind of fix that situation. But as you can see, design-wise, they're actually very different. This one is kind of an interesting tank. There's stickers, you know, you can actually see the wings from the jet mode, so not as, I would say, defined and good as this version. It really does knock it out of the water with this Legacy version. Is just a really good figure, so I highly recommend it. Get it. Yes, there is some pros about the Titan Return version. Of course, I really do like the Headmaster gimmick, but as a classic Blitzwing, I would say this one definitely takes the cake. Let's now move on to one more comparison. I thought I would bring out another triple changer Decepticon from Siege. Here he is with Astrotrain, and I will bring him out later for Robot and Jet mode. I actually thought it was really cool how we now have both the two classic Decepticons. This actually reminds me of a classic G1 episode where they were both in the same episode and they like tried to take over like a whole subway system. It was really cool to see both classic G1 triple changers finally done in modern day toys. I'd say of my favorite between the two, I think they did a little bit better job with Blitzwing here. Not to say this figure is bad, just in my personal opinion. Let me know what you think of these two triple changer figures, and of course, should they start doing some triple changer Autobot figures, I think that'd be pretty cool. Let's now move on to the transformation. So now for transformation, what you're going to want to do is get this whole turret section, rotate this back, and there's this whole panel section here. You're going to want to move this up, move in the barrel completely down like that, close this up, and there you go. And now what you're going to want to do is disconnect this whole assembly here, and then what you're going to want to do is actually bring this section in just like that. Do the same thing on the other side, so just bring this section in, tab that in just like that. And then what you can do is move this whole turret section up. You can then untab this panel from the body. So as you can see, there's some slots there and some tabs, and you're just going to undo that whole section. Then you can go to the side, bring up this whole assembly. It is tabbed into the arm via this little hook piece that will go into this slot right there, and you're going to hinge that up. As you can see, there is actually a double hinge. There is a slot and a tab. You're going to want to tap that into place, so just hinge that up, tab that into place just like that. Do the same thing on the other side, hinge this up, use that double joint, tab that in, and there you go. And then what you're going to want to do is go to the bottom or the front of the robot mode. You can move this panel down. You can then, of course, raise the camera. Then you can flip this around, and then you can tab this in, and there is the head of the robot mode fully revealed, which that looks amazing in my opinion. Now what you can do is really disconnect this whole assembly. As you can see, there is lots of tabs and everything. These two tabs here actually went into these slots on the side, and there's a lot of tabs to make sure everything is secure, which is really nice. So now we can actually hinge this whole assembly up like this, and as you can see, this whole panel here will really just go over the head and tab into these slots right here. So just bring this over, tab this into place just like that. So there is the backpack, pretty much complete. So really just one last thing, you can bring out these wings, and then you can compress this piece, and kind of a customizable option if you want to. You can have the turret extended and have it a little bit longer. I'm probably going to leave it just like that, how the instructions show it. Let's now go to the arms, which is actually some pretty cool engineering. So what you're going to want to do is move this little piece down. Unfortunately, clearance wise, there's not a lot of it. Rotate this around, and then you can flip out the hand. Just flip that out, and then you can move this piece up to cover up that hole, which I thought was a really nice touch. Most figures now, they just really want you to deal with that hole, that gaping hole where the hand was for the alt mode, so that's really nice how they cover that up. Do the same thing on the other side. Just rotate this piece down, rotate it in, and then you can, of course, bring out the hands, and then, of course, move that up. And there we have the arms all done, and I think that's super cool. Let's now get into the transformation for the legs. So I'm going to rotate and move the camera just a little bit down so we can see everything. So you're going to split the legs in half. You can then move back here. You can unfold this whole assembly just like that. Bring these out, and then you're going to extend the leg. As you can see, there is a tab and a slot right there that'll just tab into place, and then if we move to the front, this will just tab into the inside as well. So do the same thing on the other leg. Extend this whole assembly. It can be very tight of a connection. Just disconnect that, of course, the same slot and tab that will tab into place, and there we have the legs all extended. Then you can just get this tab and slot, tab that into place, fold that up. Same thing on the other leg, and then you can get the whole boosters, bring these out, and then for the last touch, you can get these pieces here. There is a tab and a slot. Tap that in, tab that in, and there we have Blitzwing fully transformed up into his amazing looking robot mode. That looks super cool. Let's take a look at the details. Here we have Blitzwing in his robot mode. Let's take a look at the details. So starting at the very top with this amazing looking head sculpt that is so G1 classic. That looks so awesome. The nice yellow for the main helmet section, the red for the visor, and the silver for the face. That looks so accurate and so classic. Looks amazing. Getting to the shoulders, that nice kind of brown we saw from earlier from the tank. Some nice black, purple. Looks super cool. Getting to the arms, of course, mostly done in that purple. For the hands and the forearms, some more brown on the sides. That looks super cool. Getting to the chest, nice Decepticon symbol there. I kind of wish that was a little bit more defined because it's purple on purple, so it is kind of hard to see. There's some yellow in there, some silver, lots of nice paneling and sculpting and detailing, some silver for the stomach and for the waist, and some more purple. Getting down to the lower legs, some nice silver there, purple. On the inside there is some nice yellow and purple design. And overall, very clean and classic. Nice silver Decepticon symbol on the side of the legs. Some more silver at the feet. And I really do like how you split the whole booster sections to become the feet. It's actually kind of nice how you can see that they used to be the engines. It's actually really cool in my opinion. And I really do like the backpack. It's actually not overly big, and it actually looks really cool. You can see the big treads, the wing section, the whole tank piece here. That looks really cool and awesome. It's actually one of the few times where they make a backpack actually look good and you're okay with it. My complaint is, unfortunately, there really isn't a huge tab or secure connection for it. It kind of just sits there, and they rely on this whole panel to keep it there, so it is kind of floppy. As you can see, it doesn't move that much, but it is a little bit loose, which is, I would say, my only complaint for the robot mode. But overall, detail-wise, that looks so cool. Let's now get into the accessories and how they implement into this figure. So, of course, he does come with those two blasters so he can hold them. So, of course, there's this one, so you can just plug that right into there. Just wiggle it in. Unfortunately, sometimes hard to get that in there. There we go. And there we have him holding his blaster. I think that looks pretty cool. And, of course, he does come with two, so you can have him dual wield them if you want to. Just like that. And there we go. Or there is another alternative of storage for these. So if you just take these out of his hands, which this is typically how I store them, which is actually really nice how they did this. So what you can do is you can actually store these on his back, which I thought was super cool. It actually goes a certain way. You want the ammo clip to face towards the wing, so you just plug this in just like that. and I thought that looks super cool. So you just plug it in just like this, just to line up that peg, and there we have the storage for the blasters. I don't really think it's officially in the instructions, but it's an option, and I think that actually looks super cool. And what's nice is you can actually see the tips of the barrels right over his shoulders, which actually looks pretty cool, just like the big tank barrel there right behind his head. So there's the storage, and of course you can also put them in his hands. Let's now move on to the Energon Gauntlets. So of course this is how they were for the tank. You just take these out just like that, and you can plug these in to that peg. And what you're going to want to do is have his hand rotated in like that, and then this will just plug into place. So sometimes it can be easier said than done than actually aligning it, because it's really hard to see in there, and actually there we go, there I got it. So you can have him with his giant Energon glove gauntlet thing. You can have him the hand like that, or you can have it like this, you know, mix it up. Unfortunately, this arm on the other side is actually very loose, so every time I put in the gauntlet in his hand, it's very loose and it just makes it droop, which is very unfortunate. But I will show you with him dual wielding them, but it really just cannot support the weight. So just rotate the hands, use that peg right inside there and the port from his hands, and that will just plug right into place. Sometimes it's hard to align everything. Just gotta plug it in, and there we go. As you can see, kind of floppy, so I do wish this arm was a little bit tighter, but overall, that looks pretty cool and crazy. In my opinion, not entirely sure what they're exactly supposed to be. Of course, they could be shooting like lasers or like Energon at Autobots, but as a display piece, that actually looks pretty awesome. So now for the sword, you can just take these out of his hands, just take them out like that. You can rotate the hand how it was before and just kind of clean everything up. Take these off to the side just like that. Rotate the hand back to what it was. Move these off to the side, and I can show you him holding his awesome sword. And I think this is definitely probably the look I will be going for on display with him using his sword. Storage-wise for the gauntlets, by the instructions, it really doesn't show any other place you can really plug him in. There is some ports on his legs, so you could maybe plug him in. They're actually very big accessories, so there's really not a ton of space where you can actually display them besides his hands. But that's pretty much it for accessories overall. 5 is a really good number. The gauntlets, yeah, they're okay, not the greatest, but the sword and the 2 blasters are awesome, and of course on the back and in the hands. That's pretty much it for accessories. Let's now move on to some robot mode comparisons. Starting off with comparisons, here is Blitzwing with Astrotrain from the Siege line. As you can see, this figure is actually quite a bit more bulky. This figure did come with a weapons package, so that really is what made up that price point of $50. This one really makes up with engineering and of course the number of accessories, but 2 pretty cool looking triple changer figures next to each other. Let's now move on to another comparison with a former version of this character, the Titans Return Blitzwing, which I definitely think is a good figure, but of course as a Blitzwing figure, a classic G1 version, I say this one definitely does a lot better. This figure is pretty cool. I really do like the Titans Return head gimmick, and overall it's a pretty cool looking jet. Unfortunately I did break the barrel off, so the tank is kind of lost, but this figure does definitely do quite a bit better. But 2 pretty cool looking Blitzwing figures. Unfortunately I did have the old Thrilling 30 Generations version of Blitzwing, but I was unable to find it for this review, so I do apologize I wasn't able to do that comparison. But here we have some more classic Decepticon comparisons. Here he is with Galvatron. 2 Decepticons that were from the season 3 and 4 from the old G1 show, so I thought I'd take these 2 figures out and compare, and I think it looks pretty cool next to each other. 2 really good leader class size figures that I highly recommend. As you can see, he is Galvatron is a little bit taller than this figure, but of course, this figure is a lot more compact. There's a lot of stuff to him, but 2 pretty cool looking leaders. And now moving on to another comparison. Here he is with Megatron, another cool figure to compare to. And for one last comparison of the Decepticons from previous waves, here he is with Siege Shockwave, another leader, which is a pretty good figure in my opinion. Let's now move on to 2 more comparisons from the Legacy line. Now for our last two comparisons, I'm going to compare him with two legacy figures. Here he is with Laser Optimus Prime from Wave 1, a Leader Class S figure, and of course Wave 2, Blitzwing, another Leader Class S figure. And I think they're doing a really good job with our Leader Class figures, and of course rumored is to be that we're going to be getting a Transmetal 2 Dragon Megatron from Beast Wars, and I really do hope they knock that out of the park like these two figures have. And of course, for our last comparison, a previously reviewed figure over on the channel, here we have Legacy Wave 2 GX. It's a figure that I really didn't expect to like as much as I did. Two amazing figures, and again, as you can see, GX is actually bigger height-wise than Blitzwing, but you're really not paying for the size, you're paying for, of course, all the engineering and the accessories, and overall just an amazing figure. That's pretty much it for comparisons. Let's now move on to articulation, then transformation to the jet mode. So now for articulation of the robot mode, the head is on a ball joint so you can look all the way around. Of course, the arm can move out and in. There is a swivel and elbow bends, also a swivel at the hand. That's pretty much it for the arms. There is waist rotation all the way around. The legs can do the full splits. They can move forward and they can move back. There's also a knee bend, a swivel, and of course an ankle pivot. And that is pretty much it for articulation, so let's now get into transformation to the jet mode. So what you're going to want to do is go to the legs. I'm just going to move the camera pretty much really far down. So what you're going to want to do is move these sections out. You can collapse these engine pieces just like this. There we go. And then what you're going to want to do is pretty much completely unravel this whole piece here, which is actually the wing of the jet mode, which is actually pretty cool engineering. When I got this figure, I was wondering, where will the wings be for the jet mode? So that's actually pretty clever where they place these on the figure. Just completely unravel these. And then what you're going to want to do is hinge this whole assembly up, just like that. Do the same thing on the other leg, hinge it up, and then you can tab these together just like this, and then we're going to come back to those later. Now we can go to the arms. So these are just going to be in the same exact position they were for the tank mode, so you're just going to kind of pretty much undo everything we did, transferring it into the robot mode. So just rotate this back around, fold in the hands, and then this piece will just kind of fold up just like this, and this whole assembly will fit together just like that, and then do the same thing on the other arm. Rotate this around, fold in the hands, just like that, and then rotate this piece up. And this will all fit together just like that. And then a new step is you're going to disconnect this whole hinge piece, which is actually very secure. So just untab this like that. As you can see, there is a slot and a tab. This will just hinge all the way back. And back here there is a tab and a slot. And this will just tab right into place. And unfortunately things might get a little bit messy and untabbed, so you might have to re-tab some stuff and put it in place. Again, there we go. And do the same thing on the other arm. So just disconnect this whole section here, and then of course hinge it down. Go back here, tab that into place. And there we have all that ready just like that. And now we can pretty much go to the backpack and finish that. So what you're going to want to do is bring this whole assembly up. You can then open this piece up, and then you're going to want to hinge the backpack down, rotate this all the way around. You can then open this piece up and flip out the nose cone, and then tab this in. Close this up, and then you're going to use this hinge here, hinge it down, and like before, there is slots, tabs. Those will tab into place just like this. And then what you're going to want to do is, there is a ton of tabs here. As you can see, there is tons of tabs that will just align with everything. As you can see, there's some tabs here, slots on here, everywhere, and this will just all align up and tab together. So just kind of squeeze everything together, and it should all align nice and good and tabbed in like this. Everything, just make sure everything's aligned. And then there is just a few more things. Just bring these out And then what you're going to want to do is go down here. You could, of course, if you wanted to, leave these wings out as like second wings, but what it says to do is just flip these in like that. And there we have Blitzwing in his jet mode. Here we have Blitzwing in his jet mode. He looks pretty cool. Let's take a look at the details. So starting at the very front of the jet, some nice silver for the nose cone, some red for the cockpit, of course some nice yellow, and mostly purple for the rest of the jet. Some nice yellow stripes at the wings, some silver for the Decepticon symbols and these little fin pieces, which looks pretty cool. We have the nice big boosters back there. That looks pretty cool. I have like maybe some red paint apps on the inside, but overall that looks pretty nice. So detail-wise, overall looks pretty cool. I know a lot of people say this is the worst mode of Blitzwing. Honestly, I think the worst one is the tank, which not saying it's a terrible or bad mode, but of course, every figure you have to have a least favorite and a favorite, and unfortunately the tank is, I would say, my least favorite. This overall jet looks pretty cool. Yes, there is quite a bit of kibble on the bottom, but since it is a triple changer, there has to be some sacrifices and some kibble seen in some places. You really can't do much about it. Let's now get into some features. So he does have landing gear, which is right here. Unfortunately, it is not an actual rolling wheel. It's just sculpted to look like one. So you can, of course, have it out, or you can compress it, which I can show you how to do. You just lift this piece up, and you can just bring that in just like that, but it actually does help quite a bit to stabilize the plane, so I'm actually going to leave it out. That will help quite a bit. So I'm just going to leave that out, and it looks pretty cool with that. I do kind of wish it rolled, but that's a very small complaint. Overall, the plane looks very, very cool. So let's now get into some comparisons, and then I will show you all the accessories stored on the plane. So first up here we have Blitzwing compared next to Blitzwing. Weirdly enough, this one tends to lean back, so I'll just kind of lean it forward like this. But here we have the Time to Return Blitzwing with the Legacy one. As you can see, this one is much more compact and compressed. This is a lot more spread out and skinnier plane. I think this one's quite a bit better, but I actually really do like the stickers on this one. I'm really surprised they've actually held up. None of them have peeled off, and it actually looks really cool with all that silver and all the red. So yeah, definitely there's a lot more colorful, details and stickers on this one. This one's a little bit more simple and G1, but two pretty cool looking planes. And for our final jet comparison, here he is with, of course, his triple changer Decepticon buddy Astrotrain. And two very cool looking jets, as you can see, definitely more bland with Astrotrain, but overall looks pretty cool. Of course, Siege was going for the war-torn, damaged look. This one's more G1 with no paint apps or no brushwork, which I'm actually very glad they didn't put any brushwork or battle damage. I just wanted a clean, simple look for it. But that's pretty much it for comparisons. Let's now move into, of course, all the accessories and how they are stored on this jet. So, of course, he does come with two identical blasters, and you can plug these in many places, but I typically just do it right on the side of the wing here, just like that, and I think that looks pretty good. And then, of course, you can do one on the other side. Just plug this into place. You do have to have a pretty good grip on it. Just plug that into place just like that, and there we have both blasters connected to the plane, and I think that looks pretty cool. You could plug some blaster pieces under there if you wanted to, and that would look pretty cool and neat. So for the sword, there really isn't an assigned place to put it. Of course, there is ports there that you could plug into if you wanted to take off one of the blasters. There's several on the bottom, but I typically will just leave it out to the side because I think that'd look pretty weird to put it on the bottom of the plane. So that's pretty much it for the blasters. Of course, we do now have the Energon Gauntlets, which looks ridiculous and stupid to put them where the instructions said, but I will show you anyway. So what you do is you bring out this section here of the engines, just like that. As you can see, there is some ports there, and what you're going to want to do is get the gauntlet, have it like this. Of course, the hands can be either way, but by the instructions, they want it in this configuration, and you get this peg, and there's the ports, and you just plug it in like that, and I think that looks stupid and ridiculous, but it's an option. Well, I guess options are good, but this one looks pretty bad. And there is all the accessories, of course, except the sword. There is actually some more ports you could plug it there if you wanted to. Lots of options, but I'm just going to keep it off to the side because it looks kind of weird with it on. But there is the Energon Gauntlets on the back. It does add, of course, some extra length to the plane, which is always good, but it looks very weird. I think it would have looked maybe a little bit better if the purple from the gauntlet matched this purple. It's like a lighter shade, so I think that looks kind of weird in my opinion. What you could do if you wanted to take off the hand pieces, that makes it, I would say, a little bit less ridiculous and weird, but by the instructions they say leave them on because who knows why. So there is all the accessories stored on there. Overall, the jet mode is pretty cool, definitely a really cool looking jets. Let me know what you think of all three modes in the comment section down below. Which one is your favorite? Which one is your least? I think a lot of people are going to say this one because all the kibble. Me personally, I don't think it bothers me that much, but that's pretty much it for the jet mode. Let's now move into the final thoughts. Now for the final thoughts for this amazing Blitzwing figure, starting in the jet mode. I think overall it's a really cool looking jet. It's very compact, there's really not that many holes or gaps or anything. Very compact, very cool, very slick, and overall it looks awesome. Yes, there is a lot of people who complain about this jet because there is a lot of under kibble, but of course you do have to realize it is a triple changer, so there will be sacrifices. Of course the treads are seeable because there really is not many other places where you can put them. I mean, with the Titan's Return version, they're pretty much in the exact same general area where they were with this one, so really not a change between the two, but honestly I think appearance-wise it looks much better. So now for transformation from the jets to the other modes, it's actually very simple. Transformation in general for this figure, I was really worried it was going to be hard and complex, and I would not like to do it. There's several figures where I just do not want to transform it. Actually, example, Laser Optimus Prime. That figure is awesome. I love both modes, but the transformation is such a pain because you have to do it in the exact same order the instructions say or it won't work. This, you can really freestyle it and just do which order you want. You could do the arms first, the legs first, the wings, anything you really want to first, and it will work out pretty much any way, which is really nice. And I memorized all the steps after like the second time transforming or the first time, so it was very easy to do it without the instructions. Next up, the robot mode. I think it's awesome. It looks very G1. The head sculpt is so cool. Love the sword, the pistols. I do like how it comes with two guns. I really don't like it when figures come with one gun and one sword, because what if you want to dual wield two guns, you know, and just have one sword? I'm perfectly fine with that. I actually really do like the look of the sword. I love all the angles, the silver. I also really like how there's no paint blotches or anything on the sword or the head sculpt. That's always a real pain when that happens. But overall, articulation, pretty standard for a leader class size figure. Of course, there is some slight, of course, limitation because of the big backpack, but also getting to that point, the backpack looks great. This is one of those times where it's okay to have a backpack on a figure because it looks cool. There's a giant, you know, tank cannon on his back with huge wings, and he can store his pistols there, so it actually looks good and works. Another thing is storage. I think they did an amazing job with accessory storage for all three modes. Weirdly enough, in the instructions, it actually doesn't say where you can really put the sword. There's no specific spot to put it, but you can if you want to. It's an option, really. There's ports all over this figure where you can put it, of course, wherever you want to. I typically do just leave it out to the side because it looks kind of ridiculous when you have it on the jet or the tank, but, you know, if you want to, you can. Transformation from the robot to the tank is pretty straightforward and simple, you know, just like robot to jet, you really get it down pretty easy. Very straightforward and simple. You get it after, I would say, at least the second try with the instructions. Tank mode, I think, overall works pretty well. I'd say really my main complaint is, unfortunately, you can see the head inside the tank. If you see it, like, if you look at the front view of the tank, you can really see the head peeking through the whole front cockpit piece there. I know a lot of people complain about it, but it is accurate to the G1 show, so it really doesn't bother me at all. Would I remake this and take that away if I had the opportunity? Yes. But as it is, it doesn't bother me. I really just wish there was a panel to cover the face. That's really my main complaint. Storage-wise for the tank, looks cool. I do like how you can rotate the cannon fully around. That's always really nice. And of course, the barrel can move up and down. It overall looks really cool. I love the brown, the tank treads. I like how it can roll very well. Overall, an outstanding figure. I think this is definitely better than the Laser Optimus Prime, just as enjoyability goes. You know, the transformation isn't a pain in the butt, you know, and It's like 30 and 40 steps, but it's actually very fun to mess with. I've transformed it like 15 times at least, you know, not even including this review and how many times I've done it. But overall, a very enjoyable and fun playable figure, definitely very accurate to the G1 show, and it really just kicks the Titan's Return figure out, just not even an option to beat it. And I actually really like another version of Astro Train. The Siege one is good, but I'd kind of like one without the brushwork. It kind of does make it look too dark and kind of bland and, you know, boring. But overall, as that figure goes, it's a pretty good one. As, of course, there is a next leader class figure. It's supposedly supposed to be the Transmittal 2 Dragon Megatron, and I would love for that. And I hope, of course, they keep the you know, trend going, or the pattern going, as good leader class figures. I think Optimus was a solid, you know, 9 out of 10. This one, I honestly have to say, taking the, you know, head problem in the tank mode into account, of course, I would say it's a 10 out of 10 or a 9.5 out of 10, which is a pretty good figure. So I highly recommend to get it. I know a lot of people commented on my my unboxing video, like, is it worth getting? You know, I have the Titan's Return version. Yeah, I do have it too. Just, you know, of course, putting that aside that it's broken, you know, it hasn't been broken for long. It happened actually quite recently, past few months. Just as of when it was complete, I would still say this version is better. So I think that's pretty much it for this review, and I'll see you next time.